My name is Claire. I'm 48 years old. And I've been quiet for far too long. I used to believe love could stretch across decades without thinning. That the soft weight of a man's hand on your back, or the way he whispered your name before sleep, would always mean something. And maybe it still does, for him. But for me, those touches started to feel like shadows of what we used to have. Familiar. But colder. Rob and I met when I was 29, a nurse newly divorced and convinced I'd never feel sexy again. But he made me laugh during a patient handoff at the hospital. He was a trauma surgeon back then, confident in a way that felt safe. For years, I craved his touch. His lips on my neck, his hand on the small of my back in the grocery store, those things made me feel wanted, alive. But slowly, so slowly I didn't even notice, I stopped feeling like me. Now, when he kisses me goodnight, I turn my face just a fraction too late. When he reaches for my hand on the couch, I let him take it, but I feel nothing. It's not that I don't love him. It's that the love feels tired. Like we're trying to speak in a language we both forgot. Last week, we were lying in bed watching a movie. I was exhausted from a double shift. He reached over, gently at first, and touched my thigh. I didn't flinch. I didn't lean in. I just lay there, letting it happen like a task I didn't sign up for. But it was his eyes, God, those eyes, that stopped me. Not because they were filled with lust. But because they looked lonely. And in that moment, my body responded before I even knew why. That was the first time I realized something had changed. Rob has always believed that love lives in action. He fixes things, leaky faucets, broken doors, tired hearts. He thinks that if he pulls me close, kisses my neck, or slides his hand across my hip, it means we're okay. That the cracks don't matter if he's still touching me. But that's just it. I don't need more touch. I need to be seen. Last Sunday, I came home late from a shift at the hospice. One of my favorite patients had passed, quietly, in the early morning, with my hand in hers. It left me hollow. Grieving in a way I couldn't name. When I walked through the door, Rob was in the kitchen, shirtless, sautéing something that smelled like garlic and wine. He grinned, came to me, and wrapped his arms around my waist. Kissed me hard. His usual welcome home. But I couldn't find the right way to say, not now. Please, not like this. Instead, I stiffened. Just for a second. He didn't say anything, but I felt the shift. The air between us cooled. He went back to stirring the pan, shoulders tight. Later that night, I tried to talk to him. Tried to explain that sometimes I need a minute, just a little emotional quiet before the heat of his hands. But all he heard was rejection. So, what, you don't want me touching you anymore? It's not that, Rob. Then what is it? I couldn't answer in a way that would make sense to him. He went silent. And the next day, he kissed me goodbye before work, but not on the lips. Just the side of my head, like I was made of glass. That misunderstanding didn't just linger. It started to root itself between us. And neither of us knew how to pull it out. It's strange how silence can grow louder than words. In the past, I used to lean into Rob's affection without thinking. His hands were comfort, his kiss a promise. But now, every time he touches me, I feel this tightening in my chest, not from fear, not from anger, but from the ache of not knowing how to receive it anymore. It's not his fault. At least, not entirely. Last Thursday, he came home early. I was folding laundry in the living room, mind somewhere else entirely, thinking about the woman I sat with the night before at the hospice, how she held my wrist like she didn't want to let go. Rob walked in, tossed his keys, and came up behind me. He gave my backside a playful slap. Something he's done 100 times, something that used to make me giggle and turn into him. But this time, I flinched. He paused, looked at me, confused. You okay? I nodded. I always nod. Later, when he leaned in to kiss me during dinner, I let him. His lips were warm, familiar. But I didn't feel the rush. I didn't feel much at all. Just the weight of expectation. When he reached for my hand under the table, I pulled it back, pretending to reach for my wine. And then the thought came, sharper than I expected. Why does everything have to turn into sex? I hate that I thought it. Because I used to want him like that. I used to count the minutes until he'd pull me into the shower or press me up against the bedroom door. Now, I feel like I'm watching someone else's life unfold. Someone else's body responding while mine sits still inside it. I don't know when I stopped wanting it. I just know I want more than this. It all came undone over roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. I'd worked a 12-hour shift. My feet ached. My back throbbed. I had mascara smudged under my eyes and a dull headache behind them. Rob had made dinner, his way of showing love, I know that. The house smelled warm. Safe. Familiar. We sat down at the table, just the two of us. I poured a glass of wine, he scooped potatoes onto my plate. Everything looked normal. But the silence between us wasn't the comfortable kind anymore. It felt loaded. He reached across the table and rested his hand on mine. I miss you, he said, softly. I should have said it back. Should have squeezed his hand or smiled or even cried. But I just stared at my plate, and something inside me cracked. You miss me? I said, the words brittle. What exactly do you miss, Rob? The woman who pretended everything was fine? The one who smiled through everything just so you wouldn't feel rejected? He blinked. Claire, I'm trying here. I laughed, but it wasn't a kind laugh. It came out sharp. Trying? By pawing at me like I'm some faucet you keep turning, hoping it'll finally run hot again? His jaw tensed. That's not fair. No, I said, voice trembling now, what's not fair is feeling like I'm disappearing and no one noticing. What's not fair is you wanting my body without ever asking how my heart is doing. The room went still. His hand slowly slipped away from mine. He didn't yell. He didn't fight back. He just looked at me, really looked at me, with this wounded, confused expression that made me feel instantly ashamed. I didn't know, he said. I didn't know you felt that way. I got up from the table and walked into the kitchen before he could see the tears falling. I gripped the sink like it might keep me from collapsing. The truth was, I didn't even know I felt that way until the words exploded out of me. But I did know one thing, his eyes, just then, didn't look angry. They looked scared. And somehow, that was worse. The days that followed were unbearably quiet. Rob didn't sleep on the couch. He didn't storm out or slam doors. But the distance between us became something you could measure in more than feet. It was in how we moved around each other, careful, almost polite. Like roommates sharing space, not partners sharing a life. I missed him. Not just his body beside me in bed, or his hand on my back in the mornings. I missed the man who used to pull me onto his lap while I was cooking, just because. The man who used to kiss me on the shoulder while I brushed my teeth. The version of us where touch meant comfort, not obligation. One night, I found him standing in the hallway outside the bedroom. Just standing there, staring at the closed door. I don't think he realized I was watching. His shoulders were slumped in a way I'd never seen. He looked tired. Not just physically, but worn out. I wanted to say something. I opened my mouth, and nothing came. Not I'm sorry. Not I miss you. Just silence. He turned, caught my eyes, and gave a small nod. Then went to the guest room. That nod wrecked me. It said, I hear you. It also said, I don't know what to do anymore. Over the next few days, I started noticing how sad he looked when he thought I wasn't watching. How his fingers hovered near mine, then dropped away. He made coffee in the mornings, just like always, but didn't kiss me goodbye. And that hurt more than any argument could have. I kept wondering when I stopped fighting for us. When I began mistaking my exhaustion for his failure. Maybe it wasn't that he stopped trying. Maybe it's that I stopped letting him reach me. I didn't know if we could get back to the version of us that felt easy and full of spark. But I knew I couldn't keep pretending that silence would protect me. So one night, I stood outside the guest room, hand hovering near the doorknob, heart pounding. I had a choice to make. Try again. Or walk away before I became someone I didn't recognize. I didn't knock. I just opened the door and stepped inside. Rob was sitting on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. He looked up when he heard me. His eyes, those same eyes that once made my body light up with just a glance, were red-rimmed, heavy. "I didn't think you'd come in," he said quietly. I sat beside him, not touching, not speaking at first. Just being there. "I've been angry," I finally said, my voice low. "But more than that, I'd been lost. I didn't know how to ask for what I needed, so I punished you for not giving it." He let out a breath. "And I just kept touching you, thinking it would fix everything." I nodded. "You're not wrong for wanting me, Rob. But I needed you to see me. To ask me how I was. Not just try to kiss it better." "I didn't know how to do both," he admitted. "I thought showing up physically was enough." "It used to be." "We've changed," I said. He reached out, slowly, and rested his hand over mine. I let it stay there this time. It didn't ignite anything passionate. But it felt real. We sat like that for a while. No promises. No plans. Just honesty. "I don't know how to fix us," I whispered. "Maybe we don't fix," he said. "Maybe we start over." He pulled the blanket up around our shoulders. Not as lovers. Not as strangers. But as two people who wanted to find their way back, if not to what we were, then to something new. Something gentler. That night, we fell asleep side by side, fully clothed. No heat. No urgency. Just quiet, shared space. At some point, I turned toward him in my sleep. His arm draped over my waist like it used to. Natural. Unforced. And I didn't flinch. It didn't feel like sex. It felt like trust. And in that moment, it was enough. His eyes said everything, and my body listened. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you that love was about consistency. Showing up. Staying. Now, at 53, I know better. Love is about listening. Not just with your ears, but with your whole body. Your breath. Your patience. Your presence. And sometimes, with your absence too. There was a time I would have given anything to feel Rob's hands on me again the way they used to be, urgent, certain, like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. But over the years, as life wore us thin and grief layered itself over joy, that urgency began to feel like pressure. His touch didn't comfort me anymore, it confused me. And I hated that I couldn't explain why. I think we forget that long-term love isn't just about staying in the same house or sharing meals. It's about growing together, and more importantly, making room for each other's evolution. For a long time, I was screaming internally for emotional intimacy, while he was reaching out for physical closeness, thinking it was the same thing. We were both trying. We were just speaking different languages. That night I looked into his eyes and my body responded, not out of lust, but out of recognition. I realized something I hadn't admitted before. It wasn't that I didn't want him. It was that I didn't feel safe to be fully myself with him anymore. And yet, in that quiet guest room, when he looked at me without expectation, without demand, his eyes said everything. They said, "I still see you." They said, "I want to learn." They said, "I don't want to lose you." And my body, finally, listened. We're not perfect. We're not even healed. But we've started again. With new rules, new words, and slower touches. Not every embrace leads to the bedroom. Some nights, it's just a hand in mine and silence. And that's enough. So if you're asking me what I've learned, it's this. Desire fades when understanding is absent. But when someone truly sees you, and stays anyway, your body remembers. And sometimes, that's the way back home.